Hello and welcome to the Ross Cloud Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Ross, and this platform was created to motivate and to inspire in hopes that you will become a better you. I'd like to give a shout out to everybody that's listening all over the world. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Ross Cloud Podcast. And as promised, our healing session with psychotherapist, Miss Beth Kincaid. Hello, Beth. How are you?
Doing well today. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you, Beth.
Good to see you too.
Yes. Okay, Beth, what you got for us on today?
Well, I have to say I've never gone live before. I always thought I was already live, so at least not other than in person. So this is going to be fun.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to do a little discussion of how to teach children resilience, because in this world we're in today, we're going through so many changes and so many complications and traumas and different things that can create stress for everyone. And I think especially children need to be taught how to be resilient. Resilience is not a magic bullet or a special power. It's something we have to teach people and have to learn for ourselves. And so whatever I'm going to talk about today that concerns children, adolescents, also will be helpful for adults. So you might want to take notes for yourself.
All right. Thank you, Beth.
So there's a lot of different things that actually go into resilience, but the definition of it is that, I'm sorry, I just lost my page.
That's okay. That's okay.
The definition basically is that when you're undergoing stress and any kind of adversity, it challenges your ability to handle that. And so you have different reactions to that. And so what happens in your brain technically is the stress response is initiated by the amygdala, which is the part of the brain responsible for our instinctive and impulsive responses. And from there, messages are sent to the brain to release a chemical, including adrenaline and cortisol, to help your body deal with that stress. And so when it's ongoing, that the physiological changes switch stays on. And so over an extended period of time, that can weaken your immune system, which might cause like students to get sick during exam time and that kind of thing. And so it can also cause the prefrontal cortex, the front of the brain, to temporarily shut down. And so resilience, on the other hand, is related to the capacity to activate that cortex and calm the amygdala. And when that happens, those physiological changes that are activated by stress start to reverse and go in the other direction, which expands your capacity to recover from or adapt to or find a solution to whatever that challenge or adversity or stressor is. So children, when they are undergoing stress, might become emotional or withdraw, or they might become defiant or angry or resentful. You know, there's a number of different reactions that we all have to stress. And so some of the qualities that people can have naturally that can help them to be more resilient would be their ability to have an optimistic outlook, be intelligent, effective coping styles, agreeable temperaments, problem-solving skills, self-esteem, self-efficacy, emotion flexibility, and their ability to regulate their emotions, an active lifestyle, a sense of humor and autonomy and empathy. The social part of that, they need to, well, if they had a secure infant attachment to their caregiver, a warm and supportive couple of parents, parental harmony, pro-social bonding to a supportive adult, meaningful peer friendships, healthy sibling relationships, social competence, cooperative learning skills, and the ability to ask for help, parental supervision, and effective parenting skills can all affect positively a child's ability to be resilient. In the environmental domain, safe neighborhoods, high quality schools, community closeness, access to after school programs, supportive extended family, successful school experiences, and valued social roles, positive mentors, faith-based or other meaningful community memberships, and a sense of purpose are all important. So there's several different theories about why people are more resilient than others, or what comes into play to help that happen. And one is called the compensatory model, another is a protective factor model, and the last one is the challenge model. So the compensatory model means basically, if you're in a dangerous neighborhood, but your school is very supportive and helpful and friendly, and you get a lot of positive feedback and affirmations from them, that kind of compensates or makes up for that danger you might feel in your neighborhood. The protective factor, again, is about a parent, basically, who might be there to have you feel protected from whatever it is you might be going through. And the challenge model is kind of melts down to whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So if you're going through a lot of adversity and you actually make it through, then you're more likely to be more resilient in the future after that. So those are some of the things that actually will help somebody become more resilient. There's also two things that they felt are used to measure a child's ability to be resilient. And one of those things is that a child would be considered resilient if they're on target for meeting their developmental milestones, like learning to walk or using language. Another measure would be attaining adaptive psychosocial and behavioral outcomes. For example, a child would be considered resilient if they experience positive pro-social outcomes like quality peer relationships, emotional well-being, and academic career-related achievements. So it's when people are kind of hiding and they're withdrawing that they may consider them not quite as resilient. So there's examples of resilient child development in that situation would be Romanian orphans. We've all heard of them. In the 1990s, there was a lot of Romanian orphans who were left and neglected and deprived and had gross developmental delays in these orphanages. But for the ones who were adopted into nurturing homes, those children actually developed normally and met key developmental milestones. Children survivors of natural disasters like the 2004 tsunami in Sri Lanka, that devastated everything in its path and killed nearly 31,000 people and exposed millions of kids to an unprecedented trauma. But they found that those who had positive mother-child relationships as a key protective influence was associated with their resilience attached to that disaster. So another man that spent a lot of time studying resilience in these situations, he himself had his own personal example of a traumatic childhood with extreme instability and abuse. But he was able to grow into a healthy, successful adult, a college graduate with an intact marriage and stable employment. And he said the 5 protective things that were instrumental in promoting his resilience were having a hero, somebody who was accepting and forgiving, having a refuge, somewhere like a school that he could go and escape the stress he was living in, having a place of solitude, a peaceful place of serenity, like outdoors to go to, having a voice. So he joined a choir, and that enabled him to feel like he was being heard and participated somewhere in a positive way so that he can externalize what he was feeling on the inside. Having a purpose, for example, serving others as a way to provide perspective and to foster a sense of purpose. That's what he found worked for him. So to build those resources, to build resilience in children, you need some resilience promoting external supports and resources like the church, like the school system. You also need some internal resilience promoting qualities like your feelings, your attitudes and beliefs, or those of others around you. And resilience promoting social and interpersonal skills, you need to build those to be able to communicate to others and let that experience out. So if you have a caring adult that you can talk to, you can ask your child and try to find out, are they optimistic about the future? Are they confident in their skills? You want to try to frame it to them in a way that they can be more positive and move towards how you want them to be resilient and to be able to accept things and move on. So the school is a big help with that. And there's some school settings that use relaxation exercises and visualization to help children learn how to regulate their emotions. That's an important piece of it. And those exercises can be tailored to fit anybody or any age child.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bev. Hold on just a moment. We'll be right back. We're going to pause for a brief message from Stuff Inside My Head. It is a stage play written by Mr. Michael Garcia. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this sneak peek. We'll be right back with our healing session with psychotherapist Beth C. Kincaid. Enjoy this clip.
Where I'm from, did nobody talk to no damn shrink. I know death. I smell death.
When you're a little girl, rejection that you don't recognize as rejection, it leaves a scar.
I was drawn to her nectar as a bee is to honey, and indeed her taste was sweet. My skin My beautiful brown skin has been blessed by the gods, dipped in bronze and kissed by the golden rays of the sun. Man, the prison hurts, man!
Yes. All right, welcome back to our healing session with psychotherapist Beth Kincaid. All right, Beth, back to you.
So when you're thinking about resilience in children, if you think about preschool children, very young children will only have recently mastered walking and trying to talk, and they may not be able to express themselves as well as an older child can. And so they might be a little too emotional, and they may not be able to verbalize what they're actually feeling. However, they're also very aware of what's happening, and they can understand a lot more than they can communicate. So you want to pay attention to signs that you can see visually of whether they appear afraid or sad, or if they're extra clingy or they need more hugs, that kind of thing. Are they more suddenly, all of a sudden, changing their behavior? Those are things to look for. Elementary school children, they may be starting to have new friend groups and they're participating in new activities. And from what I remember, girls anyway, they change friends every 2 seconds. And so that can be very hurtful to some people and stressful. And you need to learn how to be, how to help your child maneuver through that. Middle school kids, on the other hand, they can be lonely and confused. Their body's changing. Their hormones are bouncing all around. And high schoolers, teens, they have added stress and trauma, and they have a hard time understanding, I think, their emotions and feelings as well. And they tend to express it and get angry and sullen and hide in their rooms and that kind of thing. And so you want to be able to reach out to all of those children and try to understand what they are experiencing, so that you can kind of give them what your experience has been and help them to understand this is temporary and that it's going to be okay no matter what they're experiencing, and that you're there to support them through that. So research suggests that resiliency really is, it's important for an authoritarian parenting style to be there. And what that means is not a sergeant, but that somebody can be warm and supportive, but also appropriately demanding in terms of expectations. So your parent might demand that you do the best you can in your schoolwork, but they're not going to lock you in a cage in the backyard necessarily if you don't get the best grade. Authoritative parents provide consistent limits, but in a loving way. And so you also want to work on teaching your children to build empathy. Empathy means trying to understand how other people might feel and try to consider and visualize the struggles that are faced by others, because a lot of times children are really mainly thinking about themselves. They don't kind of look outside their little bubbles all the time. You want to identify a go-to person to make sure that they have a close and supportive adult that they feel comfortable with. Listen to them, ensure that they feel like you're truly listening and hearing, not just simply saying, but that you're really tuned in. Accept children for who they are. Avoid pushing your child in a direction they don't want to go. Instead, just celebrate what they find interesting and fun. Identify strengths. Find out what your child is really good at and offer encouragement and support. Do-overs. You can make sure your child knows that mistakes along the way are okay. They're not only okay, but they're the way we learn. So present them as learning experiences and areas where they can try to do better next time. Developing responsibility. You want to give your child opportunities for developing mastery and responsibility, and that will encourage self-esteem and efficacy. Offering meaningful participation so they can engage in activities that they really care about. And along those lines, like if your child joins a team, one of the things I certainly used to say to mine were, if you're going to join, you need to make that commitment and stay there for the team. This is not just about you. It's a team experience. So even if you're not enjoying it, you at least have to ride out that one particular season, and then you don't have to do it after that if you don't want to. Teach problem solving. So you want to show your children how to deal with problems and provide both role modeling and encouragement of how to solve things as they come along. So I wanted to bring up this little chart here that talks about the 10 best phrases to teach resilience to your kids. It's a colorful chart, and if you Google that phrase, I believe it will probably pull up, but it's in one of the resilience articles. And just some examples, it talks about whatever your goal is. If you're trying to use humor to teach them, you say something like, oh, come on, laugh it off. If you want to provide a distraction, you just say, let's take a break. Offering hope. I know it looks bad now, but you'll get through this. Taking action. What can we do about this? Until you get them to think of how we can do this differently next time. There's also another article I thought was really helpful, or would be, is if you look up 30 helpful emotional resilience activities for children. 30 activities that you can do with your kids to teach them. There's another one written by Lynn with an E on the end, Namka, Namka, and she has over 100 activities for instilling resilience in the classroom. So whether you're a teacher or you're a parent that want to use those to teach, there are a number of resources out there with activities that you can use at home to help teach your children these things. So parents are more likely to raise resilient kids if the parents themselves are resilient. So that's why it's important for us to work on ourselves and encourage ourselves to be resilient too. So we want to reframe obstacles as learning experiences and appear hopeful and optimistic about things, and talk to them about how we've made our own changes in the past. To see challenges as a challenge, not a negative thing. So we want to, even if it's not you that you can use as an example, you talk about their grandparents or your family history and how you've overcome adversity in the past and how your family has made it through things. So they also want to increase peers they can rely on for support. So as the children get older, parents assume that they're relying on their peers and not the parents, but they actually really still need parents there to help them through their struggles that they're going through. They know, they may not say it out loud, but they know that their parents love them, and they know that their parents have had experience in some of the things that they're going through before. And so even if they don't want to admit it, I think they still hear what we have to say to them and hold it somewhere in their head as a support to hear later when they need it. So insight is one of those qualities that you want to teach your children, help them develop by asking them questions that reveal what their values are, their truths, how they feel about things. You want to encourage independence by teaching them autonomy and how to rely on themselves. Relationships, you want to help develop resilience by helping them to establish meaningful connections with other people, and help them by taking charge of their own lives. Help them by teaching them creativity and how to use their imagination to deal with feelings. A sense of humor in difficult situations helps people to get through that. And teaching them a sense of morality, encouraging them to do the right thing without you being there to tell them what to do. What we know about promoting those qualities, I'm going to tell you a few different activities that just offhand you can try to help them to do learn those things.
Okay, hold that thought
Sure.
right there. Beth will be right back with another sneak peek at a Stuff Inside My Head by playwright Michael Garcia. Be
Where I'm from, did nobody talk to no damn shrink. I know death. I smell death.
When you're a little girl, rejection that you don't recognize as rejection, it leaves a scar.
I was drawn to her nectar as a bee is to honey, and indeed her taste was sweet.
My skin. My beautiful brown skin has been blessed by the gods, dipped in bronze and kissed by the golden rays of the sun.
Man, the prison hurts, man.
All right, welcome back to our healing session with psychotherapist Beth Kincaid.
So some activities you can do with your children or things you can suggest to them so they can learn these resilient traits is volunteer work is a really big one that he teaches altruism and autonomy, and it helps to promote responsibility. And it gives somebody a sense of meaning and purpose. It helps them to sit in somebody else's shoes and not just think about themselves, but to get outside themselves and see what other things or people go through. Getting a job fosters a resilience by building independence and being able to rely on yourself and taking pride in yourself through your work. Practicing self-care, so you want to have plenty of good rest, good eating habits, physical exercise, so that you can have a balanced lifestyle that helps you to be more energized and be stronger. To be optimistic, you want to encourage them to keep adapting and knowing that there's always hope. There's always things you can do to change things. Try relaxation. There's a lot of different relaxation exercises out there that you can suggest to them. Listen and learn from others. So we always want to listen to everyone around us and encourage them to learn from all the people that they come in contact with. While trying new things, people take risks, and so it builds self-esteem, and it's rewarding and interesting and builds mastery. Practicing empathy, again, that can be done through that volunteer work, and it helps one to increase their ability to be compassionate and empathetic. You do want to set reasonable goals and encourage them to do that so that they don't feel disappointed or like they can't manage. So reasonable goals allow you to achieve something manageable. Encourage them to take breaks so that they can feel balanced again and healthy and not super overstressed. Establishing structure or consistent routine avoids people from becoming overwhelmed and they feel more in control. Forming meaningful relationships, again, establishes those bonds with other people. And it's that close bond that's very important in having support. Being aware of stressors, if you can teach your children to be kind of more in touch with themselves and what's bothering them and what's happening around the world, that will help them with that connection. Accepting change is a very important thing for people to practice because we all have to go through transitions and it's very difficult for some people to experience. And so the more you practice those things that are hard, the easier it gets. Finding your passion. People live a more fulfilling life if you can do what you're passionate about. So again, you want to aim for those warm, non-judgmental, that's an important word, and open-minded connections that are empathetic to them or to you. Identify and practice naming your emotions and talking about where you're feeling it in your body and how that you experience that and what you can do to regulate that a little bit better. Acknowledge what you're going through right now and validate that it's okay to be going through that and feeling what you're feeling. And then you want to ask questions, about what people are experiencing, what they could do differently, they can learn from what they're going through. Encourage problem solving for issues big and small. So we brainstorm with each other about what we could do differently. Nurture calming skills with the 4 slow, deep breaths, snuggling with a pet, different things like that, which again, you can find online. Shift their attention to the here and now rather than the past or the future. The past and the future, past you can't change, it's already done. The future is unknown, and so it creates anxiety. Being in the here and now actually reduces the intensity and the discomfort of negative thoughts and feelings. So you want to accept uncertainty instead of fighting against it. So okay, I'm moving to this new place. I have no idea anything about it, but I'm going to keep an open mind and I will just do the best I can with what I have when I go there. Exercise some control over things you can control, like having a hobby or helping out a family member or doing things that you can do instead of things that you're not sure if you can do. And helping your child to remember times that have been hard, but that they made it through it anyway. And find meaning together, like we talked about earlier, your family values and trying to draw strength and inspiration from your family. And prioritize being brave and giving back, having family time, and what those core values are for your family. Knowing that you're a part of something larger feels comforting and safe. So connecting your family to society and religious, cultural activities and communities is important as well. You want to celebrate milestones, even in a modified form, so that you have these rituals that you go through that help you to kind of look forward to those things. And highlight your children's strengths. In hard times, children look to their caregivers for cues, so it's important for you to keep yourself on track and be consistent and show that you're keeping track of your health as well. So you want to keep building and strengthening your cortex, your intelligence, your executive functioning by doing all those, but also playing games, providing opportunities for different activities that can expand your knowledge, memory games, activities outside, opportunities and games that help them make their own decisions and help them act independently. So you want to encourage being mindful, and that's really about being in the present. And the sense of mastery, which means I can accomplish things, and teach them how to reframe. What that means is, I'm afraid that I can't do this. So you can reframe that by saying, I'm going to do my best to do what I'm getting ready to do. Whatever happens after that happens, and it will be okay. So also to teach them how to face fear, but with support. So we're not expecting children to face it by themselves. We're trying to be there to support them through that. So you encourage them to take safe risks, things you've had experience with. One thing, a safe risk would be to get on a ride. That's a scary thing, but hopefully it's been monitored and it's safe enough for them to do it. So you don't want to rush to their rescue either. You want to give them a chance to find a way to help themselves and to figure it out. Meet them where they are. You don't want to have to expect that they're going to be at a certain place, but that they just are simply experiencing where they are. And so we can change, and so can other people. So you want to also encourage that growth mindset, that just because you've experienced this now doesn't mean it's going to be that way every single time. And let them know that you trust them to cope. You build their problem-solving toolbox. One thing that they can do is think about, what would somebody that they see as being stronger or capable do? what would daddy do in this situation? You know, what would Superman do? That helps you to kind of come up with some other ideas that you know has worked for other people. So think about what has worked before. Try to give as many ideas as you can in 2 minutes, even if they're silly, to ask your child, just lay them on you. How can we break this big problem into little pieces? So if something's really overwhelming, you want to break it down into the smallest possible pieces and then start with that first piece. So let them talk, be quiet and not interrupt, and just listen to what they're trying to say. And another one is to, instead of asking them why you did this, ask them how that happened and how can you fix that, so that you let them know that they're loved unconditionally. So again, I actually had printed off some of these. I'll read a few of them out to you, but they're questions that you can go to online. This is called a growth mindset action plan, where if something didn't work out, what's your next step? You ask yourself, well, what happened? What was my strategy at the time? Why did I use that strategy? What happened when it didn't work out? Describe what's been going on in your head since then. And what have you learned so that that will help you to do better the next time? What strategies can you try, or who can you ask for help if you don't know? What's the new plan, and how will you deal with those thoughts to keep you from trying in the future? Asking yourself questions like, when I think I can't do something, how do I get to how I can do it? Ask yourself why you think you can't do it, what you're afraid of, why you should try to do it, and how you'll keep those challenges from standing in your way. So there's a lot more questions along those same lines that you can look up online to ask yourself how to make changes and how to improve with the right strategies. So I just wanted to end by saying resilience is a powerful protective construct that is also malleable. It's learned behavior. In other words, if you or your children are not particularly resilient today, there's still plenty of hope. You can't always control what happens, but how you respond is up to you. In fact, it's empowering to know that there are many things that can be done to minimize risk and promote healthy youth development and well-being. So lots of options out there that you can look up. These are not the only things to think about, but the most valuable thing you can teach your child or teenager is how to be resilient.
All right. I love it. I absolutely love it. And we'll be right back. We're going to go to a quick commercial break from our sponsor. Are you looking for a therapist that's helping others to find peace within themselves in a safe pace, in a safe space? Then we have the psychotherapist perfect for you. That's Beth C. Kincaid, who's located at 301 South Elm Street, Suite 311, Greensboro, North Carolina. And her website is bethckincaid.com for all of your therapy needs. You also can check out for your media needs. You can go to the Mix Network LLC. They're capturing moments that matter. Their website is www.mixnetworkllc.com. And you can check out the Ross Cloud Podcast at the Ross Cloud Podcast 7722. You can check us out on the Mix Network, Ross Cloud Podcast. And we want to say thank you again to Beth Kincaid, our psychotherapist, in our healing session here at the Ross Cloud Podcast. Thank you so much, Beth, for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And this is the Ross Cloud Podcast. I am your host, Carl Ross Sr., Christopher Ross. Make it a great day and keep being great. Peace.